a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Accoli.
No, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin, would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Well, hello. Since I've got permission to talk, since we are live, we are welcome to the Hockey Podcast. We are live on Facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, the Hockey Podcast, where we have fallen to the Ethan Bear of subscribers on YouTube. So please subscribe, tell your friends, your family, maybe even your enemies about us. You can also follow us on Twitter, podcast_hockey, and subscribe to the audio, which will be up shortly after everything is here. Daniel has said hello. We say hello to Daniel, and we also say hello to you, Sean. How are you doing today?
I'm all right. It's been a crazy since the last time I've on week, I don't know. I feel weird and confused and angry and upset, and it's a weird time. It's a weird time to try and be a Canucks fan and a hockey fan.
Yep, for sure. Devin, hello. How are you?
Howdy ho, good neighbor.
Howdy ho, neighborito.
Yeah, things are as good as they can be over here. Beautiful day today. As my laundry is done, as you can hear.
Good to know.
Yeah, things are as good as they can be over here. So no real complaints overall.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting. It's not the right word. It's a chicken shit word. It's been a rough week, I think, for both Flames fans and Canucks fans for different reasons. And I think this has an impact on the National Hockey League overall. And we'll get into that. We have also a trade to discuss tonight as well. We'll get into that. The Calgary Flames have split up the most lovingly, their longest couple ever have now split. And they're moving on to other relationships. We'll get into that, but we do have to start with the Canucks, and the latest here is now the number is up to 25. 25 players are on the COVID list.
Is it 25 players or 25 people in the organization?
It is. I'm just going to pull this information right up right now. Give me one quick moment. Because there's been a lot of confusion in this. And I think let's see if this is it. The Vancouver Canucks number of COVID-19 positive results have grown 25, the team said Wednesday. The Canucks added the source of the infection has been confirmed a variant, which yesterday Dr. Bonnie Henry was not aware of, but they have yet to determine which specific type. Among the 25 positive cases are 21 players, 3 players from the taxi squad, and 4 from the team staff. 1 additional player is considered a close contact. An ongoing investigation by Vancouver Coastal Health and Club contract tracing staff attributes the source information to a single individual obtained in a community setting, which has since been identified by public health as the public exposure location. Rapid spread of infection throughout the team indicates a link between the contacts and the primary case. All players and staff members currently remain in quarantine. And obviously,
so
the
to
Flames...
answer the question there, Kev, sorry, before it sounds to me that would be 25 people in the organization, not 25 of the players, because we do know that I believe it's 3 coaches
4
now that have 4 coaches now.
So according to that statement, and it's this is basically the way I'm looking at it right now. Everybody in that organization is going to be on that COVID list, probably at some point or not. And I mean, when we're at this number, I mean, I'm not saying we should dispute it or like we should be accurate, but I'm looking at it. Everybody's on the COVID list here. Everybody has been affected. Everybody is in quarantine. And I for now still don't know what the next step is. I know that the people have the experts on Twitter that have got their doctors and the medical expertise and epidemiology from Google seem to have a lot of knowledge of what everyone should do. But I honestly don't know. I don't know what to do. And I'm very okay with not knowing what to do. Actually, I have given myself some comfort in that because I'm not an expert here, and I think that there's a lot of. I think the best thing for us to do is to wait.
And that's what the NHL it looks like they're trying to do is they're trying to wait out and see when there will be enough of the organization off the COVID protocol list to be able to put a competitive team on the ice. And if they can do that, it sounds like they're hoping that could potentially happen end of next week. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I don't know enough about this ridiculous, stupid disease to be able to make that be able to say otherwise. So at this point, I'm just sitting back. Trying to avoid the mess and the emotional toll that it can take, and just wait to see what happens, and go from there, and just hope that anyone who has contracted the disease and has had some bad symptoms are recovering as quickly and as quickly and as efficiently as possible, because we want them to be healthy first and foremost, and then think about the hockey afterwards.
Yeah, health is obviously at the forefront here. Hockey is secondary to the health of everybody in that organization, and realistically, everybody who is dealing with the COVID outbreak right now, not just within the NHL. So having a timeline of, a week from now or 2 weeks from now, it just seems very, for lack of a better word, juvenile, to really kind of get on that same page. But I think that we really just need to take a breather, sit back, relax, and just let this run its course. It's so unfortunate for the organization overall. Obviously, it was a bit of a long shot to get into the playoffs, but at least you would really hope that they would have been able to trade a couple players for some assets or some assets, prospects, draft picks for the trade deadline, and that's obviously probably not going to happen now, especially when you're a team that could potentially be acquiring a player who has had it and who could potentially have some ill effects on top of that. Just ask Rasmus Ristolainen and how that really affected him. If you don't know, go check it out. But he talked with a media outlet and kind of just exposed what exactly he went through, and it sounds pretty damn shitty to me. So hopefully that first of all, the players who have it and the coaches who have it and the staff who have it within the Canucks system are okay and will recover to 100%. And that's really the main point out of all of this, right?
Well, it's not only them, it's the families too, right? As an example, Brandon Sutter's family heard from Brent Sutter. Brandon Sutter's family all has contacted it. as well. So it's affecting the families too. Someone like Travis Hamonic, it's a very scary situation. He has kids that are asymptomatic. So this is, I mean, we say this number again, and the number is actually really, when you think about it, within the Canucks family, it's much bigger than that. So I think that's to me, that's where we're at this particular point. And I think the way that we're going to address this is just update people on the information, and then leave I'm not a scientist. I'm in the radio arts and entertainment program at BCIT, so you can kind of tell where I'm at with science. Hopefully really our best efforts of thoughts towards them, and that's where we'll leave. That's where I think we can leave it at this particular point. And should I say this? I'm just gonna leave it there.
Don't tease us, Kevin.
Okay, I'll say it. I'm gonna say it. This is gonna be a bit of a criticism, but I don't feel it's been very. I am not a big fan of people putting out polls of what the Canucks should do for the rest of the year.
I get what you're coming from, Kev. I think I know there's a couple like radio and TV shows that were doing that, but they're also daily shows, and there's only so much other stuff you can talk about to keep people engaged. So when you're on the air that regularly, there's only so much you can do, and especially when it's the hot button topic, it's hard to avoid. And I know I push us, because we're only doing shows twice a week, to try and avoid some of that. But when you're on when you're on 5 days a week, I think it's hard to avoid not just doing something like that, because you're going to get the engagement from your listenership on that. But it's tough. I see where you're coming from, Kev. It's tough because at what point, like, again, we're not scientists, we're not epidemiologists, we're not doctors. I've been lucky enough to not have to deal with anyone that I know personally, at least from my knowledge, to have gotten this, to have gotten COVID. So I'm very lucky in that aspect, but I don't have any personal firsthand knowledge of, or secondhand knowledge of what this disease does, only just from people who are like what we're taught, like from media and from other outlets like that. So until I know what exactly what exactly is what it is, and when you get it, what you go through, then I can't really say yes or no either way.
Yeah, and it's also the other thing that I will say, just in a positive way, is I'm pretty sure that the NHL has been in contact with the NFL, NBA, and MLB, who have dealt with this. Now, fortunately, in the most of the cases, the difference here is this is pretty late in the NHL season for this to happen, and everywhere else has had this at the beginning. But I'm sure that everybody is working together in terms of getting the best advice for everyone on how to move forward. So we will wait, we will see, and as Daniel has so eloquently put, hope everyone is okay on the Canucks. There we go. Let's move on to the Calgary Flames, and the couple has split. Sean Monahan and Johnny Gaudreau, after years of being together, Darryl Sutter finally split them up for practice. Anyway,
haven't they practiced apart before? Haven't they played a few games apart before?
It's been a long time. Time.
Did they do that earlier this year?
It's happened sporadically throughout the past 2 or 3 years, so it's nothing really kind of new. Kevin, do you have the lines?
Yes, I do. Give me a quick moment here. I will find them here. But our poll question yesterday was after Darryl Sutter made the comment about Sean Monahan and Johnny Gaudreau not being 30 goal scorers. We put that poll question up on our Twitter feed, and most people did not think so. So that was interesting, which is kind of funny to me because there's been maybe let's start with Darryl Sutter overall here. And I know that losing 8 of 9 isn't looking good. Especially when you come in and you're supposed to be the legendary savior of the franchise. But I really think what Darryl Sutter is seeing here just isn't good enough. And he knows that, he's basing that on his experience and what his knowledge is. And I wonder if Darryl Sutter had a higher expectation of this team and he saw some inner habits from some of these players and he has a different perspective of them.
We all have higher expectations of what has happened this year, period. Looking on paper, looking at what they've done in the past, you really, really think, at the beginning of the year, you really thought that this team would actually be able to do something and push for a playoff spot, actually be in the playoffs. If you look at the analysts and the experts within the league here, all of them, if the majority of them, had the Calgary Flames within the playoffs. Elias Lindholm making a push for being a number one center. Johnny Gaudreau coming off of a 100-point season a couple years ago. Excuse me. And Sean Monahan being a 20 to 30 goal scorer. Markstrom coming in and being able to backstop this this team that has had a hard time keeping pucks out of the net. So it not just Darryl Sutter, but everybody thought that this would be a better team overall. And I think from the outside, Sutter probably thought that he would have a better result from taking over the team till now. So I once again, it's about the long-term goals that you're looking at here and what this team needs. It's not about the quick fix. And even before right after he got signed by the Flames to be the head coach, you're not expecting him to just turn things over right away. You really need to temper expectations, pump the tires. We all know that this team is now not a playoff contender, that the top end, quote unquote, top end players are not top end players right now. And there needs to be some change within that room, change of the guard, change of I've been saying this for months now, is that I don't think that leadership group is good enough and can lead properly. The Giordano's, the Michael Backlunds, and the fact that once again Matthew Tkachuk has not been himself ever since that puck flip incident with Jake Muzzin and having the closed door meeting. So it's just Darryl Sutter is not the savior of this team. He is a big factor going forward and into next year of what this team's identity needs to be and what he really expects from his players. It needs to be solidified. So this is more so an interview process of figuring out, okay, well, who is good enough to stay with the Flames and who is a Darryl Sutter, quote unquote, Darryl Sutter type of player. And he really thought that Sam Bennett would be thriving under a Darryl Sutter, and he really hasn't, just as an example. And there are issues within within that locker room that he's obviously seeing. And it's all about the process. And I'm not concerned with him being the head coach of the Calgary Flames. It's more about what we see into next year and at the beginning of next year, and mostly within the mid-range of next year, and how well they do.
So who is a Darryl Sutter player right now on the Calgary Flames?
Matthew Tkachuk. Matthew Tkachuk, Mangiapane, a Dylan Dubé, Chris Tanev. To me, those are the ones that really stick out right off the top of my head. Elias Lindholm is up there too. No, he has similar aspects to a Anze Kopitar, just being a two-way player who can produce and has a good shot. Outside of that, I really don't know if there's anybody else that's really a stereotypical Darryl Sutter player. I mean, Rasmus Anderson has little spurts here and there of that, grittiness and being able to take care of his defensive zone. But I just don't. Outside of that, I'd say that anybody is really on the market to be moved. I'm sure he has a list, and he's talked to Brad Treliving and being like, all right, these are the players that I want to have next year. Do not trade them. Everybody else, free game. Let's go.
Before Sean goes, I just want to comment on something. I noticed there was someone huge you did not say, and that was Jacob Markstrom.
Okay, well, that's a different...
But I know that Sean is like, come on, but he has not played well under Darryl Sutter. We don't know why. It could be injury, but there is some interesting stats and numbers on there.
Most likely there's an injury within there. I don't think there is any way that he is 100% right now. I really don't. His numbers within the past 2 years have been remarkable. And so are you saying that the system isn't beneficial for Jacob Markstrom?
One of the things that our friend Kevin Woodley has said is one of the reasons that Jacob Markstrom was a fit in Calgary was the system that Jeff Ward implemented was a fit to what Markstrom was doing. And if you look at what has happened, when he gets less shots, he doesn't seem to be playing as well. He seems to be a goalie that needs a few more shots to get into the feel of the game. And with a Sutter system, he's expecting the shot volume to go down, and it doesn't seem to be helping Markstrom.
Getting to the rhythm of game is essential for a goalie. I mean, take a look at Jordan Binnington down in St. Louis. Yeah, they're two different goalies at two different parts of their career, but the amount of shots that he gets in comparison to the majority of other goalies, he's averaging around 20 shots a game. And it seems like Jacob Markstrom is kind of in a similar boat ever since Darryl Sutter came in. So I could see the correlation, but once again, at the same time, like, fuck, you're one of the top goalies within the NHL, and you should be able to you should be able to adapt properly. And with the goalie coaching staff there with LaBarbera and what's his name? Pringles is his nickname.
Jordan Singlet.
Jordan Singlet. Thank you. With that tandem, they need to be working together with Darryl Sutter to adapt his game, Markstrom's game, to suit Sutter's game plan and strategy. And that's on Jacob Markstrom. That is not on Darryl Sutter, because Darryl Sutter.
I brought that up because I noticed you didn't mention him, and I'm not saying that he should be trading. Please don't get me wrong. Jacob Markstrom is a top flight goaltender in this league, and you should not be trading Jacob Markstrom. But it is interesting that you did not mention that Jacob Markstrom is a Darryl Sutter guy, and we don't name that with goaltenders, to be fair, but I did
Exactly.
note that as an observation.
That's where I was going to. I was like, when you talk about who is a coach's player, you're not talking about the goalies. They're a completely different breed. The head coaches usually don't necessarily touch them. that's the goalie coach's job, especially up in the NHL. But yeah, I think he came back too quick. I think there's a lingering issue there, and I do think that there is some that's also hampering his ability to adapt to the new style and system that Darryl Sutter is running, because Markstrom has been in very high volume environments in the past 2 years with the Canucks, and now and then to start his career with the Flames under Jeff Ward. So, but I don't think I think that's far down on the list of issues that the Flames need to be worrying about at this point. Because you've got so many others. When I saw that Darryl Sutter was signed for for multiple years,
3 years,
3 years, 2 years after this.
2 years after this, I knew that this was more of a long-term look for the Flames. They weren't trying to pull off a Craig Berube or a Rick Bowness or even a Jeff Ward type deal where just trying to get through to the end of the season and see what you have. This was a long-term decision, and they are basically weeding out who is and who isn't part of this core going forwards. Looking at the point production for the players since Darryl Sutter took over, Elias Lindholm has 13 points in 16 games. Michael Backlund has 10 points in 15 games. The old guy still has it. Mangiapane stepped up with 9 points. He's also the guy. He's also leads the Flames in 5-on-5 production under Darryl Sutter. And then one person Devin didn't talk about is Noah Hanifin. Noah Hanifin's definitely a Darryl Sutter type player. Like he's not your typical rough and tumble guy, but Darryl understands you need those puck transporters, and he's actually using Noah Hanifin as a puck transporter and someone who can control the play on the blue line. And he's doing it better than basically anyone else on that blue line right now. And I think that's someone that everyone needs to understand is going to be a big part of this future under Darryl Sutter. And then Matthew Tkachuk, he's gotten some power play points, but his 5-on-5 still hasn't been quite there under Darryl Sutter. But he's starting to turn it around, and I think he's starting to feel that he has the support of the coaches and everything to, and the team is starting to follow. So he's starting to ramp up his Tkachukery, and it's going to piss off a lot of fans going forwards, I think.
So looking at the lines, I'll bring those up again for us to discuss here. According to Pat Steinberg, shout out to our pal Pat. Still need to have you on our show, but anyway, well, that's neither here nor there. Lindholm, Gaudreau, and Tkachuk, Monahan, Mangiapane, and Dubé, Backlund, Lucic, and Nordstrom, Ryan Bennett, Richie Levo. Tanev was not skating, but it was Anderson, Hanifin, Shillington, Giordano, Stone, and Valimaki. We'll have a discussion about Valimaki. Petrovic, who's not played, and Nestorov, who took a terrible penalty in the last game. Now, the one thing I do like about these lines is I wonder if Andre Mangiapane would be more effective. I'm not saying that Mangiapane is terrible on the right, but he feels more natural on the left. And I think that looks good to me. And Lindholm and Gaudreau, when they have played a little bit together, they have some chemistry. There was in the Oilers game there late in the third period, Lindholm and Gaudreau were going in. They were passing that puck around pretty good. So I think that those two line switches I think are good fits. And yeah, everyone else, I mean, seems to be fitting where they are, and I think that this is going to be good for Monahan. I think you got a guy with Andre Mangiapane that has the ability, and Dylan Dubé have the ability to wreak havoc. Dubé needs to do this a little bit more, but there's certainly upside on both of these guys, and I think this will be good for Monahan. personally. So I like the structure of those lines myself.
I do too. I really, really do like the high flying speed because Lindholm can fly. Kachuk, I mean, his wheels are questionable, but still up there for NHL standards. So, and yeah, I do agree with Kevin is that Monahan having a bit of a different look of a distributor. Your flanks over there with Dubé and Mangiapane. I feel like Mangiapane, he has very high end skill. There's been a lot of criticism of why he's why he gets knocked over so much and why he's on his ass a lot. And it's because he tries. It's because he isn't that big of a body, but he is willing to go to the nitty gritty, dirty areas of the ice, and that's what happens, especially within the NHL. Like he's. You have the bigger guys that are going to be pushing you around, especially defensemen. So I'm not surprised that he's on his ass, but at least he gets back up and he fucking keeps on going. So and Dubé, I feel like he's a bit of a Johnny Gaudreau light. He has some decent hands. He's got good speed, and I mean he's still young, along with Mangiapane, but I feel like he does have potential to be a good puck distributor and get Monahan the puck in the slot where Monahan does the most of his goals. So yeah, I do like these lines. I'm curious on how long Darryl Sutter is going to be implementing this and whether or not they're going to stick. And I guess with less than a week to go within the trade deadline here, we're getting down to it, and who knows what Tree Living is going to be doing within this lineup and just shaking things up for next year.
I said that also, though, just before Sean goes, it goes back to one of my personal indictments on Brad Tree Living is he has not filled that right side. I know, Devin, you're about to be pissed off because I'm going to agree with Sean, but the fact of the matter is he has not filled that with a top end right hand shot. Josh Levo didn't work out. Like, I think we can be honest about that. And there's no other right shot in that line on that side. And I do think that's a valid criticism of Tree that he did not do that. Anyway, we'll get
that's where I was going there. I just look at that right side and I go, yeah, you're basically shuffling, trying to figure out who of your left shot guys can fit out on that side well. And you don't have someone you don't have a natural right shot right winger who is of top six caliber. And I think that is a significant hole that the Flames are currently trying to battle through. They tried putting Brett Ritchie there, see if he could just bang and crash his way into that role. He tried. He just doesn't have the skill to be able to do that. And it's something that they'll have to look at to try and figure out to fill in this offseason, because if they can do that, then they legit can start shuffling things around a little bit better to figure out how to make this roster work well. And who knows, maybe that isn't at an expense of a Gaudreau or someone else, but there's definitely something missing in that forward group, and for me, it is the lack of a game change, lack of a top six natural right-handed right winger in that lineup. Dev,
I just have a hard time. If Brad Tree Living is not scared about making trades, he has shown that, and he has been able to pull off some big ass trades. So if there was a trade that made sense, excuse me, then I feel like he would have been. It would have happened already.
Yeah, but at what point does it come that he's not willing to make that move, whether it is trade or free agency, because they haven't been able to find a right winger to play with Johnny and Monty, and now they've had to break up Johnny and Monty, and they still have that issue where you're switching you're trying to figure out who's a better fit, Mangiapane or Kachuk. on that right side, and who's actually better suited to play on the left side. As Kevin said, Mangiapane hasn't been bad on that right side, but I do think he's a better left winger than that. And whatever they have tried hasn't worked, and it just hasn't worked. So at what point? At what point do you have to? At what point do you have to say that maybe someone else can make this happen?
What are you willing to give up for whoever it is? We don't know any of these trade offers that have come his way. That's the biggest thing, man, is that we do not know exactly what's happened. And so if you don't think that the lemon is worth the squeeze, you don't fucking squeeze that lemon, period.
Okay,
right?
I'm going to throw
what happens if that lemon is worth the squeeze and they didn't squeeze it?
Then that's totally on Brad Treliving. But this is all hypothetical, man. The fact that Brad Treliving has been able to make massive trades is the big difference within this, is that he's willing and able to do it, but he hasn't found the right mix yet. And
in 7 years.
It's not 7 years, dude. You're gonna trade Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan? No, don't give me that shit. You're gonna trade Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan at their peak and precipice of a young talent just for a right fucking winger? No, you're not. So don't give me that shit.
But whether it's through trade, whether that's through development, whether that's through drafting, it just hasn't happened. That's the problem. And I mean, yes, he's tried. Josh Lebo, that looked like in the offseason a pretty shrewd signing, but he hasn't worked out. Brett Ritchie, good guy, but he's a fourth line player. He tried, but it's not there. Who else Michael Furlan was a good fit there for a while. I mean, the best one was Lindholm, but you want Lindholm at center. So, and that's the frustration, I think.
I really do believe that, yes, Brad Treliving does need to have he needs to answer for not figuring this stuff out. But I still truly believe to my core that if there was a trade out there that made sense, whether then he would have done it already. His drafting, yes, okay, his drafting hasn't really been the best, okay? Fair, valid. But you guys are talking about trades. Like,
I'm just saying fill that role. I'm just saying fill that hole. Find a way to fill that hole.
Who? My question is, who do you have out there? What's your solution? Who?
Some say that solution was Mark Stone, but I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it.
But at the same time, like you're potentially not jeopardizing, but you're giving up two massive assets and a first rounder for making up on the right side. Do those three assets make up one?
Yes, actually, they would have.
You don't know that. You can't say yes. You have no idea.
Yeah, actually, I can. I can say yes.
How can you say yes? How?
Because you would now have a Monahan, Gaudreau, Mark Stone line. You'd have Lindholm comfortably at center with no debate, playing with a Matthew Tkachuk. You wouldn't have Juuso Valimaki, but you ended up getting Connor Mackey, who is a guy in your system. And what Darryl Sutter said about Juuso Valimaki, I think is quite fascinating. It is also quite fascinating that Darryl Sutter scratched Dylan Dubé at some point during his tenure this year. So, and that first round pick, while it did turn out to be a Jacob Pelche, and I think he's going to be a fine player within this organization, he's also a left shot guy. He's not a right shot guy. He's a left shot guy. So
before Devin goes crazy, my thoughts is you always go for talent first, but that's not how cups are won. You need the right mix. And that's not how you make the playoffs. You need the right mix. And right now the Flames don't have the right mix. And that is on Brad Treliving. And whether you believe that he can fix this going forwards or not is irrelevant, in my opinion, in this argument. He has not filled that he has built a lineup up front that is unbalanced and doesn't have the right mix. So, Dev, if you feel that Brad Treliving can turn this team around and find the right mix going forwards, great. But that doesn't change the fact that he hasn't been able to fill it and put the right team together.
Yeah.
I got nothing else to say because I've said everything that I need to say within this context. Who else is going to come in here and going to make a massive trade and shake shit up that is going to be relevant to help us within this time period? We already know that Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, this core that we have within the Flames is not worth what's happening, right? You got to remember, Sean, at that time that there's the Stone potential trade, it's whether or not Vegas or whether or not Ottawa wanted to pull the trigger on that or not, right?
Now there's another, like that. It's all
Valid.
hypothetical in terms of that. But
It's
in terms
about
of
time you said that. Jesus fucking Christ, man!
You be quiet.
Oh my God.
Oh, you be quiet, because all we've said is that we think that the Flames should have made it, and then you go off on this massive yelling argument because you're damn determined that Dylan Dubé is an irreplaceable player.
I'm not saying that he's an irreplaceable player. I'm saying that the potential that him, Valimaki, and Jacob Pelche have outweigh the fact that we'll get Mike Stone. Mark Stone. Jesus fucking.
See this? Yes. I think this is why Devin's so against this trade. Is because he actually thinks it's for Michael Stone. Not, I think
that's it. Hey, Michael Stone's been playing okay. But let's talk about Juuso Valimaki. Darryl Sutter has benched Juuso Valimaki to the point that Darryl Sutter, and I don't know if we have the quote or not, but he basically said that Juuso Valimaki needs to play better. He needs to show more of an effort. He needs to play better. And basically Darryl Sutter said Juuso Valimaki is not ready for the NHL. I have condensed his words. I'll find the quote here in a second.
I got it.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
Darryl said, that's way too zoomed in. There we go. So Coach Darryl Sutter on rookie defense and Juuso Valimaki. The skating has to improve. The puck play has to improve. The seeing the game has to improve. It's not just one thing with Juice. He has a lot to work on to become a regular NHLer. And for me, when I listen to not all the Flames, a lot of the Flames fans talk about how Valimaki was going to come in, push for top 4 minutes, be a dark horse for the Calder Trophy. I think even Valimaki was talking about that too.
Yes, he said he was going to be in the running for the Calder.
Yeah, and now we see this. I think this is just this season. Unfortunately, is a bit of a, I don't want to say a step back, but not as big a step forward as everyone was hoping from him. Now he's 22. He lost the season to a significant knee injury. So I think you have to sort of treat him more like a 21-year-old in that aspect. He's still on. He's an older prospect, but a younger player. And when you reach that age, the questions start to come up on whether or not he'll be able to reach his ceiling, which I know Devin thinks he's basically a top 4 player, a top 4 defenseman, top 3 defenseman on the team. And I think that's a fair ceiling for what Juuso Valimaki could be. Whether or not he can reach that, I think at this point you shouldn't be saying he can't, but you shouldn't be. I don't think you should be as certain that he can reach that as you thought maybe to begin this season. But I still think there's still a lot to like with him, and maybe Darryl can figure a way to get him to improve in the areas that he needs to become the regular NHLer that Darryl is talking about.
Darryl's an old school coach. Ask Jerome McGinley how many times that him and Darryl Sutter butted heads. Realistically, he pushes the buttons to try and get the best out of the players out of that certain player that they can, right? I think that's what he's trying to do. Juuso Valimaki is still young. I truly believe that he will be a top 4 defenseman. Eventually, this year was not a good year for him, and the high praise from him coming out of junior, going overseas to Finland to play, and him being the top player out there. I just think that being surrounded by this toxic team that's supposed to be helping him develop it has not helped, and you could tell that with having that players only meeting within the first 20 games of the season. That really shows that this team is not where it needs to be, and if he was surrounded by better leadership, I feel like that he would be able to thrive on top of that. Now, I feel like there might be some mental issues with confidence and with thinking that he is able to do this because of what has happened this year. So that definitely has to be within the conversation here. But I think that overall he will come out of this and show everybody that he is a legit NHLer and that he is able to not dominate, but is able to be a top 4 going forward. So those are my thoughts. And yeah, you could disagree, and you probably will. I know these two will, but I truly believe that all the hype that's been behind him will show and will it'll show up within the next few years.
I actually don't disagree with you. I do think he has potential. I do wonder what has happened this year. We'll never know. But I think this year, I think the setbacks will end up helping him. I think the fact that he's been benched, I think, has been a wake-up call for him. I think part of it was, can't help but wonder if he was expecting I'm going to be a top 4 right off the bat, and he didn't take the preparation as seriously as he needed to. And that was part of it. But the other part of this, though, where I think is a valid criticism of the coaching staff in general, is the other side of this argument is Juuso hasn't been great, but I would argue he's been better than Giordano. And yet you're seeing Valid, you're going to be benching a Valimaki over Giordano because one is wearing a C and has been in this league for years, and one is just prepping in. But there's been times he hasn't been that bad, but I think they are. But I also don't think that Giordano has been that good, which has caused a bit of a problem overall. Other than Hanifin and Tanev, the defense for the Flames have not been good overall.
No, they haven't.
And yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that they're expecting more from Valimaki than what he's given, and that's a great point, Kev. Is that you have a Giordano, he's wearing a C, but what better message would it to be within that group that if he benched Giordano or even just take back his minutes? Right now, he is the leading defenseman in minutes on the Calgary Flames, which is mind-boggling considering how terrible he's been overall. Honestly, I don't know what his analytics are, but watching him play game in and game out, it's hard to watch. It really is. Him as a 3-4 defenseman, okay, I could definitely see him thrive within that role, playing 15 to 18 minutes, not 22, 25 minutes.
Yeah, it's I was just pulling up some of that those stats there, Dev, and 5-on-5, he's not the top ice time getter for defenseman. That's Noah Hanifin, but when you get all the special teams in, he is, and then that's just under Darryl. And I agree that you have to start knocking back his ice time. And we've How many episodes of this show have we talked about Giordano needing to play less ice time? I've lost count.
Yeah, it's pretty much been a theme of the year, but it's just it hasn't happened. And that's again, as Devin said, Darryl's trying to get the best out of Valimaki, right? And saying that he's not an NHLer now doesn't mean that he can't be a good NHLer in the future. But saying that he's not an NHLer now, to me, shows that there's definitely that the expectations were not aligned properly for where Valimaki truly is at this point. Again, I still see a lot of upside in him. I agree with Devin in that I do see top 4 potential out of him, and I think it's a high probability that he gets there. But at 22, you're draft plus 4, and you still are these questions are still coming up. That's just that's not great. Even if you take in the lost season 2 with the knee injury, it's still not great. Trust me, I know. I cheer for the Canucks, and we've got Ole Ulevi, who's I think he's draft plus 4, I believe, as well, or draft plus 3, and no, draft plus 5 with Ulevi. Actually, he's a year older, and he's still not there. And even though he was a top 10 pick, so you gotta. I think we got in a big argument in our group chat about it, and I think it was mostly because maybe I wasn't doing the best to explain that my thoughts on this are specifically for this season, not his potential going forwards. Yeah. Devin, I don't know if Devin is frozen or Devin is just he's done,
staring daggers. He's staring daggers into me.
Yeah. And I think he's got I think I may write this year off for Valimaki. I think write this
year off for everybody. For God's sakes,
pretty much.
honestly.
I mean, even I heard Matthew Tkachuk today. It's just like that. Just I feel for a lot of these players. It's been ridiculous in a lot of ways. So
one thing I do want to say in terms of in defense of Valimaki, though, is this is a really tough year to be a rookie. A really tough year. You're coming into a new team. You don't know too many players. Valimaki may know a few more, but you're still learning to be an NHLer without being able to do the normal NHL stuff off the ice. Like, they can't go out and have a team meal. They can't go out and just let off steam after a shitty performance. They can only hang out so much. And it's not what you're used to, and your routine is thrown out the window. And I think it's tough for some players, and especially for if you're newer into the league, and it gets lonely on the road when you can't really do all that. So this is a very tough. What I think looking. Understand what we knew now, and the fall when we were talking about this, and in like Christmas and January when we were starting to ramp up to the season, I think we could have looked at the expectations for Valimaki and tempered them just a little bit to be more fair to him, because coming off a major knee injury, trying to get back up to NHL speed while doing it under these COVID conditions, not an easy task.
No. Well, and the fact that he did so well overseas too, that really doesn't help either. Like, he had the gold helmet in Finland, so that shows that he was the top scoring player, not defenseman, player within that league. So you got to understand that there's upside there, and that you're going to go through ebbs and flows of development, and even if you are a seasoned veteran, you're gonna have those off sessions and off games. So I don't know. It's so hard to predict, and really figure out what you have within your prospect system. And I think that's why I am so passionate about not giving away those top end prospects for, you know, you're gonna have a Mark Stone for X amount of years. Okay, great, but you know, I feel like the players that are within this system and within the Calgary Flames, that is more promising to me than giving up Pelche, a Dubé, and a Valimaki for, you know,
Selke Anami.
You're driving Devin to drink. That's what you're doing, John.
No, I haven't done that. He was doing that before.
Well,
I'm just saying that it really that's my thought process, is that the potential going forward here within the Flames is more important to me, and it could be a really good thing going forward than giving up those assets for a Selke nominee. Okay, fucking awesome, great. I just don't think that within getting a Mark Stone that would have really changed things. You know, okay, yeah, we could have potentially won one series. Awesome. What else? One player isn't going to make a difference. Just ask Edmonton.
No.
Or Toronto.
Fair enough.
Oh, God, dude. What else do you have going on, Kevin?
Well, the next thing that we're going on to here is there was a trade. One of the top players in the trade deadline has been traded. It is Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac went to the New York Islanders for true draft picks, AJ Greer and Mason Jobs, the Islanders' first-round pick of this year, and a conditional fourth-round pick in the 2022 NHL draft. Kyle Palmieri is an unrestricted free agent, but Kyle Palmieri also is known by Lou Lamoriello, so is Travis Zajac. Pretty good add to a pretty strong forward group that knows its identity on the island.
Both of them are UFAs.
Both of them are UFAs. You're basically adding two top 9 forwards for a journeyman tweener and then another sort of early to mid 20s player, and then a first round pick and a third or fourth round pick, depending on if they make the Stanley Cup Finals or not. I think that's a great ad, especially for this season when that East Division that we thought was going to be an absolute dogfight, they've popped up ahead. They don't have to deal with Boston, who's struggling, or Philadelphia, who's struggling. They've popped up ahead, and they're going to be a force to reckon with, especially with that two-headed monster in net that they have with Varlamov and Sorokin.
Go ahead, Devin.
Yeah, it's a good pickup for Lou and the Island there. Just gets more depth within that lineup, especially losing Anders Lee for the entire year. You need to have a solid top 6 there, and adding Palmieri kind of really solidifies that top 6, and having the depth of a Zajac. It's well done by him. I'm kind of curious on, they kind of set the market for this year of what we're going to be expecting for the trade deadline. So I'm really curious on how that really affects the trades that are going to happen going forward here.
Yeah,
everything I've heard is that the first round picks are going to be not as valued this year, especially in the late first round, because of how weird a year this is. You're not going to get a good idea of what these players are, so you might as well try and go for it if you're a top team, and see what happens, as opposed to before where you would have scouts have a better feel of the draft and understand where players are going to go, and they'd be a little more willing to battle to keep a first round pick.
Yeah, I mean the trade. I saw the trade list from TSN, and I don't know. I'm not entirely convinced we're going to see a wild trade deadline. I mean, I think Taylor Hall will move. I think that will happen. I think some minor pieces will happen, but I don't necessarily see a huge splash of trades. I think that I just don't see this at this particular point in time. I mean, unless someone thinks that I mean, Washington and the Islanders are battling for first place, and that's something there. And they have some series against each other, but I don't know if I see a huge major splash, like a whole glut load of trades.
There's about a handful of teams out there that feel like they're contenders, and everybody else is pretty much sellers. I mean, realistically, you have Toronto, you have Montreal and North that think that they're probably going to go far. The Avalanche, Vegas Golden Knights, they got to definitely get some salary out of there as well before they can really start pushing. You have the Florida Panthers, you have the Tampa Bay Lightning as well. So there are teams out there that really do want to improve what they have going on here. But yeah, Kev's right. It's just not going to be as lucrative as the past trade deadlines have been. So, but I feel like the trades that are going to happen are going to be significant, and they will be beneficial towards those teams that are pushing for Stanley Cup, and even the teams that are going to be getting pieces back who are sellers. I feel like they'll get a decent haul too. Yeah, the first rounders aren't probably going to be as prominent as Sean was saying, but at the same time, first rounders are first rounders, and there might be a bit of a crapshoot, but I mean, you could definitely potentially get a Kucherov out of it, who dropped in the first round, or you could get a Barzal who dropped as well. So there's definitely there's good players within the next draft, and it's whether or not you trust your scouting staff that is able to identify those players, and if you do, then you're going to go for it.
Yeah, with 14 or 15 teams in long-term injury reserve, dealing with that, it's very, very complicated. Like right now, according to Cap Friendly, the Washington Capitals have $10 in cap space. $10, not like 1,000, but $10, a fucking $10 bill. Like, it's just there's not much room out there. It's going to be it's going to be dollar in, dollar out for some of these trades, trying to, if they can find a way to do that, if they can't, or if they're going to have to I think basically that Islanders trade was Zajac and Palmieri for a first and the fourth, and then they threw in a couple AHL players to fill out the roster needs for this season. That's it. And I think you're going to see a lot of stuff like that. You're going to it's a buyer's market. You're going to have a lot of sellers who are trying to offload cap and players to see if they can just get assets. And it's just going to be see who can find who's willing to sort of sell a little bit lower than they were hoping to that will get these trades done. And I'm looking at Florida. I'm really looking at Florida to see what they do, because losing Ekblad is huge. This team is playing really well. They've got a chance to do something this year, even without Ekblad. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Florida does, and if they can pull off a big trade to try and boost their chances this season.
I wouldn't be surprised if they went for Ekholm out of Nashville.
Well, that's an interesting problem. The Nashville Predators are in a playoff spot.
Yeah.
I think they really know where they stand. Honestly, you have the top end talents within the league, and then you have the teams that are okay. Oh, you were in a playoff spot. Great, awesome. How far are we going to get? Past the first round? Nope. Okay. You really gotta know your team, and
right now they'd be trading Ekholm to their first round playoff matchup.
Totally. Which we all know Nashville, they've been competitors, and pushing for NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. But I think they really know and they understand exactly what they have there, and that things really need to change. And it could be a retool or even just a rebuild altogether. I think that they're probably looking at a rebuild. So you have whichever way you want to fucking put it. Honestly, I think that they are really looking towards the next 3 to 4 years to become competitive again. And if they don't, I think they're stupid, realistically.
A player I think that Florida might be looking at would be St. Louis's Vince Dunn. I think they've got Mackenzie Weegar, who's playing on the left side, but he's a right shot, natural right side defenseman that they can shuffle back over to cover for Aaron Ekblad while he's out. I think Vince Dunn would be a great landing spot for Florida. Would be a great landing spot for Vince Dunn, and it makes you're not trading within division, because as much as that rational thought there, Dev, that you talked about, looking 2-3 years ahead. They're not traded. They will not trade their Matthias Ekholm. Nashville will not trade Matthias Ekholm to who is looking like probably will be a first round matchup for them if they make the playoffs. So that's why I think Vince Dunn's probably the best bet for them at this point, unless they want to go after maybe another right side guy in David Savard and just have him be a big bruising defenseman in the playoffs for them.
David Savard means that makes way more sense than Vince Dunn, Sean. Vince Dunn, he is a bottom pairing defenseman that is a offensive or a power play specialist, and that's all he is, honestly. And so if you're looking for a playoff performer, Dennis Savard is the man for that, 100%. David Savard.
Denny Savard did the spinorama and played for Chicago.
There's also Josh Manson's out there as well from Anaheim. That's a guy I think that would be an interesting pickup. Brandon Montour, and he was a UFA. I mean, Florida needs a defense. The position that is interesting right now is, I would argue, that there are at least 3 teams that need to be finding a way, if they can, to get a defenseman, at least that I can, on the top of my head. Actually, 4. I would argue Carolina probably wouldn't hurt to add something in the back end. The Oilers, I think, need to add something in the back end, and absolutely the Winnipeg Jets need to add a top defenseman to that lineup in some way, shape, or form. Especially when you look at what Winnipeg, realistically, I mean, I don't think I'm telling tales out of school. I think the playoff matchups are probably set in the North. Probably. I'm being unreasonable there? I think we're looking at a Toronto, Montreal, Edmonton, Winnipeg 2 series there.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, Devin, you're right. It's McDavid. They're a one-player team, but it's McDavid and Draisaitl. And can that defense hold up against McDavid and Draisaitl for 7 games as is? Or would you like some depth? And I mean, there's guys on there that I do not think are top 2 defensemen, but are top 4 defensemen, I think, can help in some way, shape, or form. And I do think the Jets need to improve, absolutely need to improve defensively if they're playing Edmonton.
The Jets need to improve defensively no matter what their plans are. If you look at their underlying stats, and they're an absolute they're all over the place. I remember I was looking at some of the team-based stats yesterday or the day before, and in January, their expected goal share, Winnipeg's expected goal share was 50%. In February, it was 30%. 30%. And then they were back up like in the 40 range. They're Connor Hellebuck is getting absolutely is bailing them out more often than not. And they definitely need to find a way to fix that, because if they don't, if they go up against Edmonton, if they go up against Toronto, because don't count out Montreal. They're 6 points back, but they've got 3 games in hand against Winnipeg and 4 games in hand against Edmonton. Like if they can get back to even after making up these games in hands, it's a crapshoot. So yeah. I don't think the matchups in the North are set at all.
I would say it's over 50%. I wouldn't say it's 100%, but it's over 50%. That I think we agree that the 4 playoff teams are for sure Toronto, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Montreal. I think we've conceded that.
But the matchups aren't set. I think there's definitely, like I said, Montreal is starting to come on. They're starting to play like they did at the beginning of the season, and Winnipeg is hit and miss. Edmonton's hit and miss. Like
Montreal really needs to
that loss. Sorry, I was just going to say the loss of Brendan Gallagher is huge.
And Carey Price. Carey Price is oh come on, you guys.
He has not played up to Carey Price standards this season. Is he
still a number 1 fucking goalie, Sean? Is he a number 1 goalie?
Jake Allen is a very damn good goalie, Dev.
I'm not asking that question. I'm asking you, is Carey Price the number 1 goalie?
Arguably, yes. He is.
You can't give me that satisfaction. It's you're speaking out of turn here, and I know he is a number 1 goalie.
Hold on. What's the difference between Carey Price and Jake Allen right now?
Okay, how about you explain to me? You explain to me. Sean explained to me why that is the case. Why do you think that?
Carey's worn down. He's not the same goalie he was 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, of course not, man. Fuck. I'm talking about right now between the 2 of them.
What's the difference?
Yeah, Jake Allen
has played just as good, if not better, than Carey Price this season. The Gallagher loss is huge. He's the heart and soul of that team. But if you've got I'm not knocking Carey Price. I'm saying that Jake Allen is just as, look at those numbers. Like he's good enough that the loss of Carey Price isn't as bad as it could be.
Like it's
as it should be.
Yeah, Carey Price is not my point is like yes, Price is Carey Price. He's always going to be, but Jake Allen absorbs that. When you lose a Brendan Gallagher, that's like the Flames losing Matthew Tkachuk. That is a huge loss. It's a tough to replace what Brendan Gallagher can give you is tougher than what your Jake Allen can hold the fort for Carey Price if he's out for a while.
The difference between whoever's replacing Gallagher to the difference between Carey Price and Jake Allen, it's not even close.
Okay, that's not what I'm getting at, though. That's not what I'm saying. Brendan Gallagher is a heart and soul fucking player, 100%. But I'm saying you're not giving Carey Price enough credit, man. Is what I'm getting at.
I don't know if you're giving Jake Allen enough credit.
I'm giving Jake Allen enough credit, but he is no Carey Price.
Look at those. Kevin, bring those numbers back up.
Okay, but who's backing up? Primo? Caden Primo. Is he a Jake Allen?
Nope. Do we know how long Carey Price is out for, though?
Yeah, I don't know that.
I think you do.
I don't know that
he's
either.
Not on this road trip. That's all I'm saying. But yes, Kevin, you are right. Brendan Gallagher is a big miss. It's a massive miss for sure.
Yeah, I got that to me. Yeah, that's concerning. And even the Leafs, Elliot Friedman said, we don't even know how long William Nylander will be out, and that situation is interesting as well. If the Leafs need another forward or not,
I think the Leafs will end up getting another forward at the deadline. That this great little honeymoon phase with Alexander Galchenyuk will end. He's playing really well right now, but he's not a top 6 forward, and they need to add someone who has that long-term ability to go deep in the playoffs that they want to. So I totally expect them to find a way to move their top prospect for a forward.
Yeah,
Toronto's top prospect. It is the number 8. It's number 8 on the trade bait list on TSN. not a player, not the actual player's name, but Toronto's top prospect.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can dig deeper into that on trade deadline. We'll do a trade deadline preview on Sunday. Is there anything else we need to talk about?
Going back to the Canucks, Rick Dhaliwal talked on his show today about how there's a potential that Jay Beagle's injury is long-term enough that it might be career threatening for him. So I don't know what the Canucks will need to figure that out going forwards, because if that's the case, then that throws a little wrinkle into their offseason plans when they desperately need to find a way to get a proper third line center and going for that. So I don't know. Like I said, it's tough for me to understand, because long-term injury reserve is not as simple as you put a player on there and you gain that much money against the cap. It's not anywhere near that simple, and the Canucks need to figure that out going forwards. Because if Beagle is legit done for his career with whatever the injury is, and I don't know what it is, and I don't think the Canucks haven't released that. They're going to have to fill out both of their bottom 6 centers next year, because I think the long-term plan is still to put JT Miller on the left side in the top 6. I think that is the best use for him. But they still need to find a way to fill out the rest of the roster, because we got into a major argument about how unbalanced and not good enough the Flames forward group is. Canucks is even worse, in my opinion, in terms of how unbalanced it is. They've got a decent 5 top 6 players right now. They need to find another, and they need to find depth. They need to find someone who can help make a third line for the Canucks that doesn't get caved in whenever they're on the ice. So that's going to be something to watch for them. And then I believe that was it Drager was saying that the Canucks might end up closing in on a Tanner Pearson, either a trade or a signing. And I really hope it's a trade. As much as I love Tanner Pearson, the Canucks are a better team with him than without him. Going into next year, the cap of that what that signing would be really scares me, and especially now with the Beagle news, not knowing what their center depth looks like going into next season, I think that needs to be a priority going after getting Hughes and Pettersson signed, because if you don't have a bottom 6 that you can trust, you're going to end up in the exact same spot that they are now, minus the COVID.
Yeah, that whole trade, that's maybe something we can dig into on Sunday, but where the Vancouver Canucks are at for trade deadline, I want to process how, if I was a player, how I would handle that is, I don't know. That was the last thing I want to be dealing with is a trade right now. Like
think of Brandon Sutter. His family has it all, and he could be traded. Like it's crazy.
And his wife is pregnant.
Yeah.
Like that's, yeah.
Not in non-COVID times. There's a great story about JT Miller getting traded from New York to Tampa, and he was on a plane, and his 8 months pregnant wife had to basically do all the moving for him. So
Yeah,
that's the other side we don't always get.
true. All right, let's wrap it here. How do we follow everyone?
I am BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
I'm Gordhouse09 on Twitter.
Schneid's SCHNEIDZ. Tyler is T Noble. I am KEVOLE. And podcast_hockey. Facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast. YouTube.com, the Hockey Podcast, where we are at Ethan Bear subscribers. But please subscribe. The audio will be up shortly to share. And we will be back on Sunday for a bit more of a trade deadline preview. Dig into a bit more. The Flames and the Oilers, by the way, schedule change. They are playing on Saturday night. We may talk a little bit about that as well. But we will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.